Hello, and welcome back to Three Legacies Recovery Recording Podcast, where we explore the ongoing journey of recovery and the spiritual growth that comes with it. If you enjoy our program, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to share with a friend. Please note that the views expressed on this podcast are solely our individual views and do not represent any official stance of any 12-step program. We are not affiliated with any specific recovery organization, and this content should not be considered professional advice for alcoholism or addiction.
Hey everyone, it's Paul from Three Legacies Recovery Recording Podcast with a quick note before we get started with this episode. It's hard to believe we've been doing this for an entire year now. It's been such an amazing experience getting to know everybody. We already have the majority of 2026 booked up and we have a lot of great guests scheduled. We don't make any money off YouTube or any of the other platforms. This podcast is completely self-supporting and we've spent a lot of money, time, and energy into it simply just because we love doing it. We're not trying to make a profit, but we are trying to cover our upcoming expenses if that's at all possible. If you'd like to be a part of that, you can make a contribution at our Venmo, which is Recovery Recordings 615. We'd like to keep this commercial free. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Three Legacies Recovery Recording Podcast. I'm your host, Paul, and today is March 13th, Friday the 13th, 2026. This is episode 107. If you want to reach us at our email address, you can reach us at recoveryrecordings615@yahoo.com. You can also find us. We have a private Facebook page, which is Three Legacies Recovery Recording Podcast. Get over there and send us a request. We'd love to add you to the page. Upcoming events, we have Philip C. from Nashville, Tennessee is coming up this upcoming Sunday, March 15th. We're calling that Keeping the Channel Clear, Steps 10 and 11. I'm really excited about that. Next Sunday, the week after, next Sunday, which is March 22nd, 2026, we're going to be Heidi S. from Grove City, Pennsylvania is on here. Grace and Transformation from Fear to Freedom is what we're calling that episode. Really excited about that. Heidi has been such an inspiration in my life over this last year or so, just all the stuff she does for the community. My prayer today is that something spoken here touches someone's heart, draws them closer to the Spirit, and helps them receive strength needed to keep moving forward towards healing, hope, and renewal. And I'm sitting here with two very, very dear friends of mine. We have Mitch W. and Jeremy N. How's it going, gentlemen?
It's going great, Paul. Thank you. Happy Friday the 13th.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah. I didn't even realize it. Jeremy, how's it going, buddy?
Doing great, brother. Yeah. Glad to be here.
Yeah. How are things going in Cookeville, Jeremy?
Cookeville.
Yeah.
Well, I've been there about a year and a half. Mm-hmm. So it's been interesting. It's a town like my only previous experience was, I've been banned at 3 hotels there.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Opened a few breweries that are there, and then I get stuck there after rehab. And but it's been going great, actually.
Don't you do some work at one of the treatment places there? What is it?
I go into detox there at one of the facilities there. I don't know if you want me to put the name on or not, but so I go into detox once a week, and then there's also my sponsor started a emergency shelter.
Nice.
For when it gets below freezing, because there's a decent large homeless population there.
Okay.
And he was at one point before he got clean, and I was too. So they started that about a year and a half ago, and so I go there once a week, when they're open, and then when it gets below freezing, we're there all the time.
Nice.
So I stay busy.
That's cool.
You know what I mean?
Cool. Yeah.
And it's cool to be a part of.
Very cool. Very cool. That's awesome. Mitch, how's for the listeners? Mitch had just moved here to Middle Tennessee from East Tennessee, and what was it, Kingsport?
Yeah, you're right. I got sober up in northeast Tennessee in a town called Kingsport. Shout out KPT. And my wife and I and my daughter, we moved here. I want to say June. I'll get the dates mixed up. If she hears this, she'll be like, "Gosh, you can't remember a thing." There's some truth in that. But yeah, moved here and just trying to get still after months trying to get in the thing and do the deal. Truth be told, it's probably one of the hardest things that I've gone through so far in a short amount of time in the program, you know.
Wow. Yeah. And what's your sobriety date?
I've been sober January 31st, 2019. Just celebrated 7 years at the end of last month.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Jeremy, what's your sobriety date?
April 4th, 2023.
Nice.
Brother.
Well, so you'll have 2 years or 3?
Almost 3.
Okay,
Yep.
nice.
Yeah, I'll have 3 this April.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, for the listeners, we are calling this Under New Management, Placing God's Ambitions Ahead of Our Own. And I love that. I Lord knows I have all kinds of experience in this area on how much I need other, it's not just suggestions, but, the grace of a loving God in my life. Let's just put it that way, right? Mm-hmm. And even more than me having needing it, the people around me are probably grateful that way more, extreme, so... let's talk about Mitch. Let's talk about some of the experiences you had that's shown you how important this new management thing was.
Yeah, well, first off, I have to piggyback what you're talking about, the ambitions, because I have to come in here and I have to learn that I need more of God's and less of mine. I need more of God and less of me. I need to be of service of more and think of others more and less than me, and that it's that shift that we talk about in here. And I remember distinctively when I first started going to my sponsor's house, my first sponsor, and he had specific instructions. Those are 2 words that I'll never forget, and I'm grateful for them. Specific instructions, and I followed those instructions to a T because I was partly afraid of him, but also too I wanted what he had. And I believed what he was saying, and I remember when we were going over the first step at first, and he said, "I got something to tell you, boy." I said, "Yeah." He said, "You're fired." I said, "I'm fired? Fired from what?" He's like, "From management. You suck at management."
Yeah.
Be that as it may, I don't think that, Paul, because I come in here with all these old ideas and beliefs, and it's just ingrained in my DNA. Even though, yes, I've burned down a lot of things, broken a lot of stuff, and hurt a lot of people, but in my mind, I look at all the things that I did accomplish.
Yeah.
Oh, man, well, I got all these different jobs, and I did all this stuff. Look what I did. So it's hard for me to come in and hand over those reins to something that I don't know just yet. And I'm not so sure that I'm aware that that's the only way that's going to get me out of this. I have no clue when I'm coming in, I'm glad that I made it to this guy's house, on time. That's a big win for an alcoholic like me. Sticking to my word, being there, not touching his stuff when he goes to the bathroom, not going through his pill cabinet when I go to the bathroom, stuff like that. So I had to start small, but yeah, I'll never forget. He told me, he's like, "You're fired." And thank God that he told me that.
Yeah, no, I get that. I remember the first handful of times I ever read in the 3rd step out, it says, being convinced that any life runs on self-will could hardly be a success. I'm like, what the hell does that even mean? What does it even mean? You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean any life ran on self-will? It was, several years later, I remember going back through the process and I was like, oh, that's self-will. Yeah, I'm in collision with people even though I got good motives. Like, it's just constant, putting myself at the center of everything. This is my world. Mm-hmm. And today it's like the useful tool I use on a pretty regular basis is like, Paul, this isn't your world. You're just here to help. Mm-hmm. You're just here to help. Help God, help his children do what needs to be done, right? Yep. Jeremy, talk to us. What's coming to mind?
What led me to having to find new management? I got issued a pair of bracelets. That's what did that. And I prayed for the first time in 20 years when I knew the cell doors weren't opening. That's what it was. And literally the first words that came out of my mouth were, "I have no idea what I'm doing. None. I have no idea what I'm doing. Show me what to do and I'll do it." And I don't even know where that came from. I have no clue. You know what I mean? So it's been a learning. It's been a learning and an experiencing process ever since then.
Yeah. How old was you when you got sober?
42.
42.
Yeah.
Yeah, my experience was I didn't really cry out to anything or anyone, because when I came back in this last time, and when I say this last time, first time I ever walked into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, I was 21 years old, Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm what some people in the rooms call a retread, in and out of treatment, in and out of sober living, all that stuff, and I walked into an intervention that I didn't know was for me in my own home. I'm like, man, my father-in-law's in from Knoxville. I walk in, hey, Jimbo, what's going on? Sit down. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Delusional, just, But truth be told, I submitted into what he wanted me to do because I just wanted him to go back home. I wanted him to go back home. I wanted Brienne to calm down. I wanted everything to go back normal, yada, yada, yada. I wasn't thinking, oh, finally, this is my chance to get honest and go get sober. Far from it. Little did I know, going through some work later on down the road, I found out that was a time that God was using him to speak to me. He was actually my Ebby Thatcher, if you will.
Your father-in-law.
Yeah. God rest him. But so when all that takes place, little by little, piece by piece, bite by bite, it all starts with that. Didn't say that I totally submitted, because I controlled the situation the whole way through. The last drinks that I took, I watched my wife hold my daughter's hand at the front of Johnson City Medical Center as I'm choking down 2 warm Clubtail margarita malt liquor drinks. So the big, tough addict, alcoholic that I played up in my mind that nothing gets to me, I'm crying myself and choking down hot malt beverages, man, before I go and check myself in. It was something I'll never forget, and I hope and I pray that I never forget that. But yeah, I wasn't one that heard someone's message in treatment. I wasn't one that didn't happen for me. My experience is a lot of these things happen later, these realizations, oh man, I'm feeling a lot better because of good sponsorship. It was laid out to me. If you do what I'm suggesting you to do for 30 days, I'm not going to tell you that things are going to get better. It's going to solve all your problems. You're going to get everybody off your back, and everybody's just going to accept you back into the family, all these stuff, right, that we want, because we've lost a lot of stuff we had. He didn't promise me all that. He said, if you start to see a change for the better that's compared to where you came from, what do you got to lose?
Sure.
Stick with it.
Yeah.
And that's how I did. I just kept showing up.
Yeah. And thank God, honestly, like one of the common theme over the last few months, and Jeremy, you can probably relate to this, was like how important and how grateful I am that when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous this time, that I said there was people there that were 12-stepping me. You get what I'm saying? Because like it wasn't like we just came up with all this on our own. You know what? I think it'd be cool to start practicing principles. You know what I mean? None of this stuff was just on the agenda, right? So Jeremy, talk to us about your experience. Like, who was your was your first sponsor, or who was the people that you looked up to? They give you this,
I end up in my first 12-step room behind barbed wire, and so that was a weird experience. And the scariest words I ever said were, "My name's Jeremy, and I'm an addict." And I'm in there on drug charges, so I'm thinking I'm an addict, because like I know nothing about any of this, and so I'm going based on that premise, and like I'm basically kind of feeling my way through all of this, and this guy comes in to bring a meeting into the place I was at, and it was an AA meeting. And normally what they did was NA meetings that we kind of ran ourselves. So this is the first person I met from the outside who is an alcoholic and who's bringing a message, like a clear, very clear, precise message. And this guy's sitting down talking about having done 34 years of his life behind bars. But he's not that guy. You know what I mean? And like you can see it looking at him. You can, you feel it coming off him. So I listened to every word that guy had to say. And as he talked more and more, and as I looked back at my past more and more, I started to realize, well, I'm not just a guy who got in a little trouble here and there and, shouldn't have driven down that street or he wouldn't have gotten a DUI. I've been an alcoholic since I was, I'm one of those people who says I probably was since I was born. But it started manifesting as soon as I had that first drink. But I realized that because of him. So, and this is the coolest thing. Now I've been out of that place for about a year and a half, and I go with him and take meetings in there now.
Nice.
He lets me go with him. And I was like, what the hell? How did I end up here?
Yeah, that's a beautiful thing right there, man. That's a beautiful thing. The ones that set the tone for us. And they don't necessarily have to be in the rooms, but because I had outside influences too. If you would have asked me going in that day to that medical center, if my family loved me, I'd be like, no, man, they just want me out of their hair. That because these are all these delusions we have. I don't know any truths. But yeah, to talk a little bit about influence, I was about to do the same game. See, I have to retrace something that I said because I didn't immediately go with my first sponsor. I came out and I got a temporary sponsor, one of my homies, that right off the bat, and he did the best that he could. And we were just two newly sober knuckleheads. He was about 4 or 5 months, I believe he's ahead of me. One of my great friends today. And first man I ever had to break up our bromance, because just like in Bill's story, when he talks about it, he's moved a few times, he's moved by something. And I'd never felt anything like this. But I was about 5 months sober, and I was moved to the realization that if I stayed on this path with him, that I would end up dead. And it wasn't anything against him. It was the fact that how I was feeling, how I felt like that I could manipulate him into being a co-signer. I needed an OG. For people that are listening, that's an original, that's been there and done that from their experience. And I was just moved to tell him like, hey, I think I need to find a true sponsor, and I appreciate you for everything that you did and helped me through. And because he got me jump started, man, he got me seriously. We're just out there just parroting, right? At that time, he got me started into service. He got me through the first 3 steps. Like clockwork, stuff that I still use today from my experience, and that just also goes to show that just because you're new at this thing doesn't mean you can't help people. But I was moved to try something different. So what did I do? I didn't look for someone that I related to. I looked for someone that I'd take their suggestions. And as I'm thinking about this, and I get drawn to this man that's in the corner of the meeting, and he talks like he's ready to fight everybody, like he ain't taking nothing. He's all about the book and all about this. And I'm like, you really want me to do this, don't you? When I went to ask this man to sponsor me, I looked like I was asking for his hand in marriage. I'm kicking around the dirt in front of him, with my head down like, so you got any plans later? It was so awkward. And he knew what was going on, and he's taller than I am, so he had to lurch down, and he's like, you need a sponsor, boy?
Nice.
Yes.
That's fun.
So yeah, man, a lot of these things come flooding back when you think about the real truth, because I don't want to pass over the first man that started to take me through the book, because he was doing something for me that had weight in gold, man. He got me started because he also saw something, man, that if I didn't get started, that I was going to die. he knew that much at least, because that's the truth.
Yeah, love that. Jeremy, I tell you, I don't really know that we could really talk about unmanageability without going into like old ideas, right? So what are some of the old ideas that, you started discovering after you'd first come in that first year or so?
Oh, God. A lot of the first thing that pops into my mind is my definitions of words were old ideas. My definition of love was an old idea. My definition of power, my definition of, I used to tell my drug dealer, I love you, bro. And I meant it at the time. You know what I mean? Like,
Facts.
and he would say the same thing back. And the funny thing is now we're both sober, but, that's how the world turns. But like, one of my big old ideas was I'm not enough, and I think that's common. I think most everybody in the world feels that way at some point, but I've felt that way my whole life. Like when I first heard the sentence lack of power, that was my dilemma. Man, that hit. Because like I remember being a little kid and wanting so badly to please my parents, but knowing I ain't got it in me to do that.
What do you think that was? I mean, what'd that look like in your head at that time to please your parents? What would that look like?
Well, see, I was raised in a religion which I'm not going to say what it is, but it was one of those religions that like when people hear what you are, they go, oh. And so like, for example, they believe very strongly in going out to try and tell people and knocking on doors and all of that. And when it comes to me being a 10-year-old kid and wanting to go do this with my parents, like I want to do it because I know it's the right thing and I know that's what they want. But I literally don't have it in me to knock on that door. I don't have it in me to do that. And I want so badly, but like, so from that, I conclude I'm missing something. Something is wrong with me. Something is deeply flawed because my mom has it, my dad has it, my brother has it, and I ain't got it. And how do you come back from that? You know what I mean? And that's the first time I remember thinking that. I was probably 6, and it just got worse over time.
Yeah, I tell you what really stands out for me was and I had this idea that God was like, like after I die, right, after I pass away, I'm going to go up in front of the pearly gates, and it's going to be God and his homie Jesus sitting there on the thrones, right? And I was just, it's like they were going to be like, dude, come on now, are you, what are you doing here, right? I didn't realize, and that was like, I didn't realize until I'd met people in the rooms and started getting into certain spiritual practices where there was a power that's right here with us, that's available to us, right? That's sufficient. And if you really go into like the first step stuff, when you start seeing like, oh, okay, clearly, the power, what I have is extremely insufficient for me to stay sober on, right? So you start seeing how much that, this is a necessity for us to find some kind of power. Well, that was a freaking dilemma because I didn't think I had it in me, and to kind of touch on what you were saying was like, I remember you had, in the past we had shared before, and you were talking about how like, you had a father that was like really, really devoted, and you just didn't think that you could live up to that, right? Yeah. Let's talk about, share some of that.
I mean, I wanted so badly to have that too. Like I wanted so badly to live up to this unaccessible figure of a man. You know what I mean? He was also a good bit older than like, I was born when he was 50. So he was a bit older than most of the parents, and there was a bit of, I got teased about that a bit, and then like I would feel ashamed of it and then feel ashamed that I'm ashamed. You know what I mean? But like I just wanted him to approve of me. Approval was probably my first drug. Like for real. And I craved that more than anything. And when I couldn't get it, I just my first drink, I was 11 years old, and I had literally gotten baptized the week before. And I had gotten baptized to please my parents. You know, it's not that I didn't believe it. It's nothing like that. It's just I don't feel it. I have belief. I don't have faith. You know what I mean? And I tried to manufacture it. That started a whole thing. I mean, I've been playing characters since I was a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And that's all I am. I'm a empty suit, bro. You know, like I'm just an empty suit trying to look like whatever I think you want me to look like. Sometimes literally, sometimes figuratively, but that's all I knew how to do.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, I think that's where it comes in, you know, starting right there, right after the ABCs in the big book, you know, as it goes right down to the third step prayer, as far as it's going to tell me exactly who I am and how I operate and how I've been doing it constantly, you know. Talking about old ideas, you know, also old beliefs, you know, and all these things are so ingrained in us, man. And I can get down on that approval seeking because I believe my first drug was attention, and then it went to the, you know, the approval and this and that. And I didn't just want access to the man. As far as my father, I wanted to be him. So I'm walking around and I don't know who the heck I am because I'm constantly trying to be all sorts of different people. And I understand that when we're younger, we want to emulate our hero or whatever, right? But my hero, he went home when I was 13. He passed away. And it was almost like the warden had left too. So I went from the gooder boy to totally off the rails. That's when Jack Daniels came in that first night, you know. But yeah, old ideas, old beliefs. Some of them that were there before, they still crop up today.
Sure.
They still crop up today, you know. And sometimes they look different and they disguise themselves. But for me, when I'm reading and I'm looking at this stuff, not even the first time because it hits different. The pages that I was talking about that I'm referring to in the big book, it hits different for me today. It's one of the first things my new sponsor said is like, I want you to read that as many times as it takes you. When I'm at this place at the work and during the work, you know, and when I'm reading that, I'm going through realizations like, holy crap. And I'm seeing it in my mind how I'm still playing this character today. But the thing is, I can't fall back on old ways and beat myself up, you know, or even double down and try to start turning the recovery knobs to try to fix everything. It's for me to have that shift in letting go, that shift of letting go of self-reliance and asking this new power and inviting and letting that power flow through me, because I'm the one that I find out that's standing in the way of the gate, man. Every time.
Yeah, it goes into, you know, there's this one part that stood out, and this keeps coming to me during what we're sharing. But on page 64 in the book, it says, if the owner of a business was to be successful, he cannot fool himself about values. It's like, oh crap, oh wow, you know what I mean? And I tell you, another common theme that's been over the last few years was the word objectionable. You know, the objectionables. You know, there's as we start. I really like what Jeremy touched on when you was talking about how your father was, you know, he was somebody you looked up to. You know that you kind of you wanted to be more like him. And when you look at like someone that's like a man of faith and like and has like a good devotion towards that part of their life. That comes with maturity as well, right? So him being, you said 50 or something when you were born, something like that. So that right there comes with like a level of devotion that you don't have when you're a kid, right? And so that's just a whole nother level to it, right? So I just wanted to, that's what stood out. But I love the whole idea of like whenever you go into some inventory and you find out how like you'd been lying to yourself about a lot of stuff over the years. You know, you've been fooling yourself about values, things that were once, you know, guiding parts of my life that I thought were real effective. You may have like, after you put a different light on them, you start seeing like, wow, like I don't know, this is very beneficial for me and the people around me anymore, right? So I'd been fooling myself about values for a long time. Jeremy, talk to us.
I mean, I thought my intentions had some weight in the world, right? Like that's a weird old idea that I was made aware of through that whole process of inventory that we're talking about. Like, I really thought that my intentions mattered, right? Like, I didn't mean to do that, so that must carry some. That doesn't carry a thing. Yeah, well, like to the people I hurt. You know what I mean? I mean, I didn't intend to drive drunk more than I've driven sober in my life, but I sure did. I didn't intend to, I didn't intend a lot of things. But that's the thing, is like, I confused what I intended to do with having actually done it. You know what I mean? Like, that's one thing that I realized through this. Like, that don't, in the end, it's what my feet do that matters. It's not what I was thinking or how I was feeling. Like, that matters to me. You know what I mean? But I thought my feelings were the biggest thing in the world. And they were to me. But, I mean, hell, what are we doing this for if that's what we're running off? I tried that for 42 years. It don't go well. Mm-hmm. Not at all. No. That we're a tornado in the lives of those around us. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I remember my when my ex told me that she didn't want me to be in my son's life anymore, my second son. She said, your life is like a country song. And I was indignant. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, looking at all the things that I'm doing right. Like, I'm paying your bills, But I'm not a dad. I'm not any good to her. I'm not any good to anyone. You know what I mean? My intentions didn't matter.
Yeah, my first sponsor used to say that we judge ourselves based off our intentions while other people judge us off our actions. And man, that used to piss me off.
Because it's true.
I didn't even I was like, what are you talking about? I didn't even have a clue whenever he would first share that. And now it's like, if you really look at like how important spiritual principles are, because, Scott always shares the stories about like making decisions based off how important, like when I'm making decisions based off motives, which intentions, it's like I'm governing the outcome of a situation, which is another form of playing God, right? But when I'm basing, my actions today, when I'm practicing principles, then I'm governing my actions in the today, not the outcome of a situation, right? Which is a game changer. It's like, oh, okay. But I'll tell you, for me though, that took a while for that before I even seen how valuable that was. I mean, I heard Steve L talk on one of his talks last week. He was like, if I practice principles on this, how is this going to get me where I want? Like this isn't going to work, right? So, like when you first come in, the idea of practicing a spiritual principle is not on the agenda because it's not going to get what it's still self-will, right? I mean, it's still running the deal.
That's true.
Yeah. Talk to us, Mitch.
Yeah, my head's just spinning with all this because there's so much meat on the bone that we're talking about here, and I started to think, so if we're under new management, how did we get there? Because we've jumped all over the place, so where are we looking for this new management? Is it in a relationship? Is it when we're first in there? Is it another human? Is it this? Is it what avenue are we going to take? So we take the position that we need a power that's greater than ourselves and that's greater than the substance. Okay, I need to make it personal to me, and I need to make it bigger than everything else. And here's my thing, and this is just my experience, and I don't need to kick the old work boots up on the desk when I think that I finally found that power, and I'm good. I have a tendency to be a box checker in this program. You boys know what a box checker is? Have you been one too? Mm-hmm. Okay, well, a box checker, like in my experience, is, hey, I'm sponsoring the guys, got a commitment on Tuesday, got this, doing this, check, check, check. Why do I still feel miserable, Paul? Maybe I've put God in a box. Maybe he's shackled. Maybe he's in the dresser drawer in the glove box still, man. And I just pull him out when it's like, all right, I'm about to go through some hardship here.
Yeah.
And I roll the dice with them. You know, can't do that. It says in the book, you know, we had a new employer being all powerful. He provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his works well, being all powerful. If I truly believe that, if I come into believing, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity, he's not going to be a power that's going to be in the glove box. And here's the thing. Crazy thing is, I do it time and time again when I reverse the roles and I start playing God, and he's already performed a miracle, gentlemen. He's already done the heavy lifting. I'm talking about like parting the Red Sea kind of miracle. What is that? What miracle, you ask? I didn't lift the obsession to use and drink out of me.
Right.
But all of a sudden, how come I start to get a little bit better and I stop believing in miracles? It can happen just like that, you know? So that's why I was taught early on and still continue to be reminded that I have to continue to seek. I have to continue to do this work, as my sponsor puts it. How is the power that you need that's going to allow you to want to push all the chips into the table to continue on to step 3? You know, that's how he likes to put it. I look at it as I'm looking at the draft. I'm a football fan. I'm looking at the draft. Who's going to be my QB1? Who's going to run the show? Who's going to put us in the promised land, right? It ain't going to be me. I was a tackle. You know, I played defensive tackle and offensive guard. It ain't going to be a lineman, right? So I need to stay in my lane. I need something else, right? Yeah.
Yeah. That box checker thing really hit. I was listening to this guy that I really enjoy listening to his talks, Joe H. And he was talking about worshiping the fingers of the program. And what he meant by that was worshiping the sponsor and worshiping the service and worshiping and all these things that, like, if I'm doing all these things, right, then I got to be good. Right. Like, I should be okay if I'm doing this. And I've met a lot of people and I've got a lot of friends, and some of them, you know, like, have chosen the program as their higher power. And that's all well and good at first. Like, you know, for me, like, I even had to do that for a little while, right? But, like, in the end, if you're worshiping the fingers of the program, like Joe was talking about, right, you're not in the actual point of the program. And the actual point is God's running the show from here on out. Whatever God looks like to you, we're not getting involved in that. What God looks like to you is an outside issue. What he looks like to me is an outside issue. But the fact is, it's got to be bigger than no human power. I mean, no human power could have relieved it. And the fact is, that obsession left 2 years ago.
Right.
You know, 2 years ago and some change. I don't remember the exact moment, but I remember thinking, how did that happen? How in the, you know, and that floored me.
Yeah.
That floored me because since I was 11, if I'm not messed up, then I'm miserable or I'm looking to be real quick. You know what I mean? Life is like, we talk about unmanageability in this program. The unmanageability starts for me like sober. Mm-hmm. That's awful. Mm-hmm. Being sober is like without the power of God in my life, it's like doing time. And I've done plenty of that. I ain't trying to do it anymore.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's literal or, you know, mentally and emotionally.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you referring to that statement about the fingers of the program and the check and box and thing. When I start putting all sorts of faith in other things that are going to completely save me, right? That's when I know that I'm still acting on self, because it's going to happen time and time again that I'm going to think I know what's best for me. I know what's best for you all. I know what's best for me. It's going to happen time and time again, right? That's why we need each other. That's why we do what we do. Mm-hmm. Thank God we're all not sick at the same time. You know. But yeah, that's a big thing. You know, that's a real big thing for me, because I have the old belief and old idea that as long as I'm a good boy, whether it be at work, in the program, at home, as long as I'm checking these boxes, where's my reward?
Yeah. Merit-based.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. It can pop up at any time. Anytime. Real quick.
Yeah.
But for me, if I don't stay connected on some way, no matter what it looks like, comparing myself to what everybody does in recovery and here and there. For instance, I got to give you some flowers, Mr. Paul. I'll tell you something about this guy. I call him one day, and I'm like nuttier than a fruitcake, man. You know, I just only been here a few months, and mind you, when I move, I get into a new job, and the new job, there's no schedule. There are hours all over the place. So, you know, I'm just running amok, running on self, trying to, you know, put fires out, no balance whatsoever. And I call him up, and I just verbal vomit all over him. He probably is like, man, I hope he didn't, because he doesn't know me that well just yet, you know, and I'm sure I sounded crazy. And I was flipping out. Do you remember this? I was flipping out, and he said, hey, man, maybe it's God's plan for you to just step back from the program for a minute. Because here's the thing. Every time I've been asked to step back from you all, guess who I get closer to? Right. And it happens every time, man. Like clockwork. Anytime a sponsor's been unreachable for weeks, whatever, all the homies are busy doing their things because they're out recovering. What happens? Return to me.
And the crazy part is like that I've experienced that over the years. Like when I first started sponsoring guys, like, you know, and I remember like it was so militant, like, no, you know, it's gotta be, you know, it's just like, you know, like it's gotta be like this. But then like over like years late into it, I realized like, you know, like I'm sitting there thinking about like, you know, and I'm not, for the listeners, I don't sponsor Mitch, but I'm sitting there, you know, having enough experience over the years of sponsoring guys. I'm sitting there like, okay, here's what I know about Mitch. He's, you know, 6 years sober at the time, right? Coming up on 7 years. He just moved into a new town. He has a family. He has a job. His job is pretty demanding on him right now. He's got a lot of stuff right now. He's reaching out right now, you know, to connect. You know, it's like, at the end of the day, you know, when someone's brand new, that was a pretty challenging place for them, you know, but somebody that has some, you know, it's like, man, look, it seems like you're being responsible in life. Looks like, you know, if you look at practicing the principles in all your affairs, you're taking care of family, right? I mean, you're practicing principles. Maybe it's just you have to back out for a minute, you know, but I didn't feel uncomfortable about saying something like that because of the simple fact that you're literally calling me, talking about you're concerned about it. You know, you get what I mean? Had you not been calling, talking about your concern, I'd be like, oh, crap.
And the great thing about that is, and what I love about this program, because of that experience, and it's happened many times to me before, I think that we are some of the best at cutting through another alcoholic's delusion and to get them. And it's almost like our words almost act like that to the face.
Yeah.
Be like, snap out of it.
Yeah.
It's just that truth, man. It cuts right through. And I could breathe again and go, ah. And it wasn't for, oh, yeah, I'm doing great. It was just simmer down, breathe, come right here, right now, right? Because I forget that, man. I forget that. I had a tremendous experience I'd like to share with you guys about and how it helps me continue to seek being under new management. I got the distinct pleasure of hosting two gentlemen in the program from San Diego, California at the Appalachian Regional Roundup. A good friend of mine, Ben R., asked me to be of service, and he kept asking me at different times. And and it just worked out this time. Thank you so much. Hey, for everybody out there that continues to ask people to do things and continue to invite them, God bless you, God love you, keep doing that, because some of us, sometimes, man, we just need to hear it 18 different times, until it finally works. It lets us know that we're still wanted and needed, because we are in this program. But so these gentlemen come out, and I have all these ideas that how to be this host and take them everywhere, right? And I'm going to do all this. And the funny thing is, right when I get with these guys and they get in the car, man, I feel like they're two of my very much older brothers from a different mother, and we just click. And I start to ease back off of what I think that I should be for these guys, and just hearing them act like children seeing green trees for the first time, because they're coming from California.
Nice.
Wow, Joe, look at all the green. And I'm like, you boys not have trees in California? I'm sitting there like, but then I start to realize they're having an experience. Well, instead of going to all these fancy places, I was like, hey, my wife, is pretty well known, knows a lot about Kingsport from her old job. And so I'm like a walking, talking travel agent for him, a tour guide. So I'm like, hey, there's a place, Bays Mountain, right over the hill here. We can go look around. The cicadas were out. You could barely hear yourself talk. They were so loud, right? But Joe did something for me, man, that I'll always remember, because the way they acted, they said, let's go over here on the barge. They stopped and they said, you see that, Mitch? I said, what's that, Joe? He said, this is exactly what Bill Wilson was talking about. I go, what's that? He goes, this is the fourth dimension of existence, because we're right here, right now. We're nowhere else. Yeah. We're experiencing this right here, right now. And man, it hit me like a ton of bricks. Like I'd never heard that before, and I forget that sometimes. And I had to remember that when I was sitting at Oneida, just dropped someone off, at a place, and to get what they needed. And you just helped me get centered again, because sometimes I forget the simple things I was taught early on. My second sponsor, second step stuff. Who are you? Where are you going? What are you doing? Simple, elementary questions that can just put you right in the moment. And sometimes we need those words to be like, hey, man, you're okay.
Yeah.
Take a breath. Because we are just squirrely sometimes. But I'll never forget that, man. I'll never forget. So many gifts have been given to me by other people and other men in this program that I'll forever be grateful for.
I get that, man. I get that. So when I think about placing God's ambitions ahead of my own, I can think about specifically a couple. I'm not going to go into detail on who the people are in my life, but there's been some situations in my life over this last year or so that have been extremely challenging, right? And it was, there's been situations where like people in my family that I want to have a better relationship with, that it's just not panning out the way I want it to, and there's some mental health stuff going on or whatever. And, but there's situations where like, like what would God have me, right? When I think about what would God have me, it's like, how can I be, love the unlovable? Let's just put it like that, right? Placing God's ambitions above my own, right? Like, this isn't about being right or wrong. It's about like, how can I be like, how can I really, and I think that's important. In order for me to actually live up to that, I have to go through the forgiveness process, right? So, I come into the program, I was extremely resentful towards several people in my family. I go through the forgiveness process. I can start seeing it from a different light. It's not all about me anymore, right? It's not all about Paul anymore. A matter of fact, even though, don't get me wrong, it's all about Paul. Don't get me wrong. But with the grace of a loving Father and some step work and with each other, and now we have something else that we're putting above our own needs, right? Which is, I've never really understood, it never occurred to me before that this whole thing isn't about being right. You get what I mean? This whole thing isn't about being right. It's really about connection, relationship, and what would God have me, right? And so, it's loving the unlovable. It's like there's been people in my life where I completely disagree with some of the stuff that they're talking about, but that doesn't mean I have to, I don't have to step in and need to be right or whatever, right? So it's that makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So let's go into that. Like, placing, what God would have me be, placing His ambitions ahead of our own. What does that look like today, on a practical application and some personal experiences with y'all?
I mean, one thing I like to say is sometimes the most spiritual thing I can do is take my hands off the wheel. 'Cause like I said, like I referenced earlier, I have no idea what I'm doing. The thing that was ringing through my head when you guys were talking was I get out of rehab and like now I'm a 2-time felon, right? And I'm job hunting. And I go for the first thing, which seemed like it would pan out because there's other people that I know that are in the program that are working there. So, and they're felons too. So I'm like, okay, cool. And I worked there 3 days and I get fired because the background check came back and they're like, not you, buddy. And I call my sponsor up and I'm literally on the curb waiting on a ride to come pick me up because I don't have my license back. And call him up and he's like, well, are you going to be okay? And I was like, well, God must not have wanted me there. Was the first thing that pops out of my mouth. And I'm not sure I mean it, but like I do mean it. You know what I mean? So I go to a meeting and I mention it, I was just like, so this guy walks up to me and he goes, well, if you want to come work in hell, you can come work with me. And I was like, what do you mean? So I make gas tanks now, right? Like, I don't know how that happened. I'm a bartender. Like, that is my wheelhouse, as far as I know, is like dealing with people. So, I go to work at this factory. And the weird thing is, I end up liking it. And the really weird thing is I end up like finding this family in the people that work there. And I would not have picked any of this, right? But like I feel like I got guided to it, and like there's a good friend of mine there who is the child of a couple of addicts. And like, so I've taken her to a couple Al-Anon meetings and I've gotten some other people in recovery jobs there. And all of that is just something that happened because, I took a job that I wouldn't have picked. It would have been the last thing. But so many good things have come out of that. So many. Like, it's like that story you hear about the lamplighter in London. You know what I mean? Like, I look back and now I can be like, well, yeah, that's why I'm there. You know what I mean? And that's wild. That's so weird for me, because like now I look back over my life and like God keeps putting his little finger in there is how I feel, So now, like I said, the most spiritual thing I can do is take my hands off the wheel and be like, hey, you got to get this. I ain't got it. You know what I mean? And it works out every time. Not the way I wanted. But the way I wanted got me, a couple felony charges and some new bracelets. I mean, now.
Yeah. God's ambitions before our own. I've been thinking here. I'm just sitting here thinking it's so funny. I shared this with another alcoholic, and like I said before, I see squirrels, Paul. But so, and I have experience too with that. So I'm going to tell this, and then I'll talk about the job that I didn't want to take, and it led me to something that I had no idea would be possible. So had some extraordinary knee pain, man, going on for like the past year. Something happened to me in the plant, my old job, or whatever. And so I tried everything in my will, everything that I wanted to do to fix it. So in the middle of this shift that we were talking about earlier about moving here, and I'm in the middle of what am I doing wrong? Trying to fix it, right? It's like, but I did notice one thing I quit doing. I used to have an issue. I used to be one of those guys when I first came in the rooms talking about, oh man, you can pray anywhere. Anywhere you want to, you pray anywhere. Just talk to them, right? Till I was sitting in a meeting in Johnson City, Tennessee, and I heard this old timer say the most vulnerable place that you can ever go to your Creator is on your knees. It's the most vulnerable place for a man. Huh. Okay. Well, I start thinking about that again. Wouldn't you know, when I start spending the last 3 months or 4 months getting back down on my knees every morning, and it's just the way I was sitting, the way I was letting those knees pop, things that hurt. Wouldn't you know that I don't have that knee pain anymore? And how about that for a slice of fried gold? So, you take that however you want to take it. Anyway, so I've never been a construction guy. I'm not a blue collar kind of guy, but I've done jobs. I'm just not that guy. I'm not, hey man, give me any tool, I'll fix it. All the ones close to me, all my friends know. They know that I'd rather pay someone if I have the money. I'm not going to go watch a YouTube video and dig up plumbing. I'm not that guy. And that's okay. And I'm okay with that right now. I'm okay with that. So I get a job that I didn't really want to take. I just answered an ad. And I was like, I probably won't even get in there anyway because they have certain clearance. It's a chemical plant, Wouldn't you know? I get clearance. I get to be a contractor inside the biggest chemical plant in the country, right? So in doing so, I'm way out of my head, man. It's so not my thing. But it's so funny you get placed in these positions, man, when you just start following where the path's open of least resistance. So I get in there, and wouldn't you know, and I start catching vapors that I'm in there with an alcoholic on the crew. Little do you know, he becomes the person that's supposed to train me. I don't go in there and I don't bang a tambourine. I go in there and I do exactly what the book says in working with others. I go in there and I just, went over his confidence. I start talking to him about things that I've been through before and what it's like for me today, And wouldn't you know, that old boy decides to start showing up at meetings. And wouldn't you know that I think over 2 years now, maybe 3 years, he hasn't taken a drink since. Oh, yeah. It's nothing that I'm not saying that I did anything special. Yeah. It's funny when you go walk through doors, man, when God has something planned for you that he needs you to be somewhere that you're like, man, this is so, the fears, Paul, Jeremy, going through my head being like, I'm going to stick out like a sore thumb out here in this plant because I'm not this guy. I'm not like, I worked on the carburetor, talk about engines and, just guy stuff. I'm not that guy. But it's funny, man. God put me there and I became useful. And I became useful to the crew. I became useful to our company. And until we moved, man, it ended up being a good situation. It was amazing. And it was amazing all the different people that he put in my lives. And it just came from, I don't know if it was his ambition, because I truly don't know what God's ambitions are for me other than not being all the things that are defective in my life. As far as me being loving, I'm sure that's one, loving his kids. That's just about it. Thinking constantly of them instead of myself, putting others before me instead of myself. Which is hard for me to do, because I can get lost in that. I can use that, and then my pride will still crop up, So, but yeah. That was an interesting situation. So didn't even want to be there. But one of the things I try to tell myself now, and I was told a long time ago, one of the most spiritual things that you can say to anyone ever is, I don't know. Mm-hmm. And I say it a lot, Paul.
Yeah. Well, something that just stood out to me was something that's, again, the common theme over the last year or two has been available. This idea of being available. None of this is about being qualified. You know what I mean? None of it at all is qualified. I remember like the podcast, for example, right? Like when it comes down to it, like, all the negative self-talk and all this when I first started, and it can still come and go or whatever. But,
Right.
I've shared on here before that I can't go back and listen to them. Like I go back and listen very briefly to like make a couple little adjustments or whatever. But I don't sit around listening to this because when I do, I'm like, dude, I'm a freaking idiot. It's just the negative self-talk, So I don't know if anybody's ever recorded themselves and listened to themselves talk. You'll play tricks on, you'll just talk all kinds of crap to yourself. But anyways, but that's the thing though. It's not about being like the most qualified for any of this stuff, whether it's like, working with the new guy or whatever's going on. It's about really being available, right? And putting myself out there. It's like, at the end of the day, and this isn't like all, big headed, etc. But there's someone out there that can only hear what you have to say today. You know what I mean? So like what was funny, right before we started this podcast tonight, our conversation, I was like, look, no one on the face of this planet has to agree with anything we say. We're sharing our experiences. We're going to get connection. And we're going to share that with the world. Right? And I think that's the key to the whole thing, and let God do God stuff. What is that old saying? I'm not responsible for my actions, or I'm responsible for my actions, but not the fruit of my actions. All that belongs to God.
Right.
So it's like at the end of the world, are we available? Are we available?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot, man. And you talking about the qualified, it made me think of that old quote, and I didn't want to butcher it, but it stands so true. God doesn't call the qualified; He qualifies the called.
There you go.
Dude, that's just, because how many times early on have you been, or even today, that you go into a situation, you're like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
But that's how we learn, man.
Yeah.
That's how we learn perseverance. That's how we learn. Shoot, man, that's how we learn humility.
Sure. Well, you go to God.
Yeah.
Like, God, I need help.
Right.
Do this. Work through this. It's not a check the box. It's an experience.
Right. But
trusting.
But that's that old default setting,
Sure.
that you want to fall back into as far as checklist, this and that.
Sure.
And that's me once again going to the external instead of the inner.
Yeah.
Got to get with the inner, man. Yeah.
That time, it's like, you know how it is when you're in a meeting with somebody and there's like the new guy that walks in and like there's something in you that's like, you're supposed to go talk to that guy.
Yeah.
Listen to it. You know what I mean? Like you're there for, I think that's really what the key to the whole thing is like getting unblocked to where you can start hearing that more often. It's like, oh, wow, okay.
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's wild when like you're talking and then you do go and talk to that person, right?
Yeah.
Or they come up and talk to you or whatever it is. And you, your grand sponsor says something about, you hear a bit of the golden truth just pop out of your mouth and you have no idea where it came from.
Yeah.
And, but you have that experience happen. And like, I remember one of the first times that happened, I was like, holy crap, where did that come from? Like I got this guy asked me to sponsor him. And so we start having like the first couple conversations or whatever. And I'm like, how do you feel about God? And he's like, no, that's all nonsense. And complete and utter nonsense. And, I was like, okay, cool. So we kept talking and we start going through the book together. And he comes to me like, this is maybe a month and a half later. And he goes, a lot of people keep saying in the rooms, like, I need to believe in God and blah, 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 or I'm not going to be able to stay sober. And I was like, okay, yeah. I mean, I hear that too, I get what you're saying. And I'm like, so you're saying you're scared because of that? And he said, yeah. And I said, well, you asked me to sponsor you and you know how I feel. You know what I believe. So why do you ask me to sponsor? And he said, well, I know that you believe in God, but you're not an asshole about it. Were his words. And I said, well, here's the thing. My God doesn't need you to believe in him to work. And I don't know where that came from. I have no idea. And, and he just nods and he goes, okay. Right. So I don't know, we're now like 9-10 months after that, right? And here's the weird thing. So we're talking about the 11th step and prayer and stuff like that. And he's telling me about this friend because he's going back home soon. He's telling me about his best friend that he grew up with is still out there, still drinking, still using, all that stuff. He was like, I don't know what to do. I'm trying to talk to him and da-da-da. So I'm walking him through working with others. And he's like, I just don't know what to do. And I said, well, have you thought about praying about it? And he said, yeah, I have been. How'd that happen, bro?
Yeah.
Because, like, I've been racking my brain
Yeah.
to try and work this guy around it. And I didn't do any of that.
Yeah.
I didn't do any of that. God does that.
Yeah.
That's his job.
Well, it goes into showing how significant problems are.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you know what I mean? Like, if everything's all hunky-dory, why do you need to, not to get all biblical, but if you look at what Christ said, he said, blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. He realized that, like, you need some issues. Like, you're going to need some issues. If everything's hunky-dory, like, why would I need God in my life if everything was perfect?
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you, and when I started seeing that, when I first come in, and I love sharing that with a new guy, is like, I've been running for my ticket to freedom. My ticket to freedom is like, I need issues. Like, when I heard a guy once, he said, I'd never made it all the way through a filling before. You know what I mean? Like, if something it didn't even have to feel bad. Nothing even had to physically go on. I could just assume or think something was going to happen, and I'm running for the hills. I ain't even entering that situation, or even, you get what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like, no, it's about growing up, maturing, becoming an adult and understanding, like, oh, okay, there's stuff I get to work through, like, and that's how, like, in my personal life, that's how God started getting bigger. Me and Renee, we were at we do our monthly book study on our home group, and it's probably 6-7 months ago. Renee was talking about, she'd made the comment on, she'd heard a guy say it's about, like, me getting smaller, right? It's about me getting smaller. But for me personally, like, I'm not approaching me getting smaller until God gets bigger. So when I come in here, I didn't have any evidence that God cared about me or even wanted to have anything to do with my life, right? So then over time, it was problem after problem, and then we eventually called them situations. My first sponsor was like, we're not going to call it a problem. It's a situation. We're going to allow God to do God stuff. Yeah. So I needed that in order for, the God of my understanding today, and, what I started seeing back then was this was an experience to where God can maybe start getting bigger in my life. Let's just see what happens. Let's not run. Let's not go anywhere. Let's see what happens. So I've been running for my ticket to freedom, which is like, I need issues. Yeah. I need struggles. Yeah. I heard another guy once say, he said, there's not a species on the face of this planet that doesn't need struggles to evolve. Everything, so I've been running from that my whole life, and so when I'm talking to a new guy, and it's funny how, like, there's something that happens in that sponsor-sponsee relationship. I talk about this quite often, about how, like, I've seen guys come straight out of prison, like cold-blooded guys, right? But there's, like, this level of submission when they got the right sponsor. Like, they ain't listened to another soul for years, and all of a sudden they're like, there's a level of, like, what is this guy? Like, went over the confidence. There's something about that, and for that guy, when he's in that space where he can hear that, right? Problems are good, like, so it's important because they're going to have problems, obviously. But we don't have any kind of evidence in our life that God cares about us or any of that. If you look at John, I love John's definition for agnostics, is someone without a working, effective, experiential relationship with this power. Yeah. So if I don't have a working, effective, experiential relationship with this power, when problems happen, my conception of God's just nowhere to be found in that, right? Like, but when I can throw the conception of a loving, God in the mix, now we got a situation that maybe God's got his hands in this and willing and trying to either get our attention or however, it's just God's in this. He's right here with us. Yeah. Maybe this is just a tool for him to use. Yeah. And I think that's how important that relationship is with the sponsor that you were talking about. Is like, because I didn't see that way. I needed problems. I needed problems. You know.
Oh yeah, yeah. Because originally, I don't know if you guys were like this, but the more situations I had or problems I had, I'd be throwing up my hands like, why me? Why now? What's that? Whatever. You're inconveniencing me and the plans that I thought I had. It's like, gave you all this devotion. What's up? But no, man. I heard this before from another place that I get fed, but pain's going to pay me. It's going to pay me because I'm going to learn from it. I'm not going to let it go without learning from it because I'm going to continue to do the same thing. No, you're going to pay me. You're going to pay me in wisdom. You're going to pay me in strength. All the things that are necessary for us to continue to grow. Because you're right. I came in here an immature man baby that knew nothing about the world. Nothing. But by gosh, if you asked me, well, I have a job, pay bills at the house. Man, I have no clue on how this. I needed to be told the truth. And once again, that relationship between sponsor and sponsee, I needed to be told the truth. I needed to be told the truth about a higher power, aka God, or whatever you'd like to call them, whatever. And I needed to be told the truth about my dilemma and the nature of this disease and where it's centered at, and from his experience, I needed to be told to grow the heck up. Mm-hmm. Me personally, in my experience, I didn't need to be brought in, and I was almost loved to death by people in my family. I didn't need to be coddled or anything. I needed to be put to work. Break time's over, bud. It's work time now. But yeah, we come in here and we're introduced, and it's funny. My first sponsor's wife would always talk about AA being a spiritual kindergarten. And it's the truth because, see, I get it twisted. In my first few years, I think, man, I know some things now. And now I'm like this freaking guru in the rooms to all my little guys that follow me around, all this stuff, right? And it's like, no, man, we're learning all these things, a design for living, It talks about it in the book that we walk around, talking about. It talks about that, we're gonna need this power to live, not to be a member of AA. That's just part of it. That's not my full identity, So I come in here and I learn these things so I can carry them out, and so I can continue to grow spiritually, and I know firsthand what happens when I stop seeking. I have that experience. I've had that experience currently, man. Things don't go too well, Jeremy. Things don't go too well when I'm gripping onto that steering wheel so hard. Right. That the wrists start to hurt. Yeah. So a lot of people in the rooms talk about multiple different surrenders. All this is necessary. It helps me return back. It helps me remember that I am part of the gathering. I'm not on the outside and not a part with y'all. That's everything that I start to believe, right? That's all the things that I start putting in between God and you guys. Like you talked about being blocked. And when I'm shown these things, I remember I am a part of the gathering. I'm not outside looking through the windows today. There's a seat at the table. No one's taken that from me. And I'm not talking about a seat in the room. I'm talking about the seat right there with my power. I heard this this sister one time on this meditation I was listening to, talking about we try to be authors of our own stories when we should just be co-authors with God. But we're always continuing to write our own story. We're not the writers of our own story. And that really resonated with me, because I have to step back, and I have to be willing to invite and acknowledge this power in every single minute of every day, man. I have to. But it also starts with being here with you guys, being able to hear you and listen to you, and just be here right now, right here in this moment.
Connection, yeah.
Dude, that goes right back. You're exactly right. That goes way back to what we were talking about. First drug of choice, attention. All I was ever looking for, man, was a family, was a connection. that family feeling. I did have it, but I just didn't know it then, right? It just didn't fit the bill. Mom wasn't the mom I needed her to be. My brother wasn't the brother I needed him to be. First wife wasn't the wife that I needed her to be. Lovely girl, I'm not saying nothing crazy. But yeah, man, it all comes down. Why do you think we ran around with all sorts of different characters, man, like us? Because we were seeking that connection, right? And that's what it's all about, man. And whenever I feel like I'm connected to the mothership, like right here, right now with you dudes, that's one of the best feelings ever. Yeah. And it's not just the him-hawing with the boys, We can do that whenever. It's when we step outside of ourselves and we allow ourselves to bare our souls. Because here's the thing, if I can't bare my soul with you guys and get vulnerable with you, I'm sure not doing it to this power that I'm supposed to be, the employee of, and he's my new employer. It ain't gonna happen, not in my experience. If I'm sandbagging with all of y'all, even my closest guys, because don't get me wrong, not everybody has access to my life, right? We have discernment for that. We don't just go around saying everything, right? But right here, right now, in this intimate setting, if I can't be vulnerable with you guys, I'm not sharing everything with God. And I understand that He knows all. He's all powerful, all knowing. But no. I need to be talking with them. I need to be. When it's time to tell Him I'm mad at you, I'm mad at you. I mean, that's what I have to have. It's that relationship, man. Not the way I think it should be, not to talk the way I think I should sound and all these different things. It doesn't matter. I just have to be 100% genuine right there, transparent, open.
Yeah. Jeremy, talk to us.
I mean, that's what we've been craving. That's what I was craving my whole life. Like, now that I look back on it, right, I was talking earlier about my dad and, like, wanting to be like this inaccessible, like, mountain of a man, right? And that isn't it. Now that I look back, like, I just wanted to connect with him and didn't feel like I could. You know what I mean? And I had this brother who I really did connect with, and he was probably the last, until I got sober, he was the last man that the last male that I connected with my entire life, really looking back on it. And I lost that when I was like 16 and I moved out early,
He was your older brother?
Younger.
Okay.
Yeah, we were a year and a half apart. And, and I've seen him twice since then. But the funny thing is, like, as soon as I see him, it's right back. Right back. But I get that in the rooms too now. Like, I never connected with other guys. And I didn't really connect with women. I didn't connect with anything. I mean, I had relationship after relationship after relationship trying to manufacture this thing. But like in the end, I still had a plan B and a plan C in the middle of all them too. Because I'm seeking. But I have no idea where to seek, what to do, man, I'm lost. I'm out there in the wilderness the whole time. I come in here and, like, I sit down and I start talking with another man and realize that because of this common problem, sure, right? But then I'm offered a solution in here that works every time, right? I absolutely love, I think it's Bill C. that says, self-awareness without a solution is depression.
Yeah, without humor. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the one, man. Like, that depression comes back sometimes, right? But nothing like it was. Nothing like it was. And that self-pity is, because I agree, I think that's what depression really is for the most part, besides like the chemical kind. It's just that self-pity. And I get to be useful today, so there isn't a room for that. There isn't a room for that. AA gave me a use. God led me to it, is what I believe. God led me to AA and gave me a use.
Yeah.
and I can watch somebody else while talking to me or while talking to other people in the room, so experience that connection for the first time. And that's God. To me, that's God. Is that like that one alcoholic talking to another thing, man? That's what I want in my whole life.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that, dude. I love this.
Yeah.
Bigger groups, heck, even meeting settings or whatever. It's funny. I don't really feel what a lot of people in the rooms feel. This is like some people, have you ever heard anybody, or maybe you experienced this, walked into a meeting, maybe recently, maybe even when you first started, and there's like 2 dudes there, maybe one. You're like, some people would be like, oh man, there was only one person. Love it. I love it because that's when you get to look right here, man. There is no distractions. I mean, it's soul to soul, bro.
Yeah.
That's my thing. There's no hiding in a small group. I mean, you can in a way, but I mean, it's I love it. You're right. I love being able to, because I too wasn't around a lot of men. I had some of the strongest men I've ever known, but I just didn't give them a chance because I was just young, and you know how that goes. But I was more comfortable hanging around the ladies. Like that's how I met my wife, man. I was more comfortable hanging around them because like the guys, I don't know, man. I just always felt like I didn't fit in really. But it's super funny, all the things that I thought about myself. A lot of them are very untrue. There is a narrative, man, that it never ceases to amaze me. And I've heard you talk about this before, Paul, but gosh, man, the massive overhaul I'm going through now, and just realizing I had an idea on how selfish I was by a lot of the work I've done the past few times I've been through the steps, but man, I'm being shown on another level, dude, just how big of a prick, inconsiderate, what it looks like today, and what it even looked like reviewing all those relationships beforehand, doing it all over again, even though I've been through it before, just to see with a new set of glasses. Oh, man. You talk about a gut punch. Mm-hmm. But I love it because it's opened up so much more dialogue with my spiritual advisor, man, and a lot of other people I talk throughout the country, and you know how we do, being like, shoot, man, do you ever feel like this? I'm getting to experience things, guys, today on a different level that I didn't get to because I have to. Because where I was comfortable where I was at, and I didn't really get a chance to touch on it. It was one of the hardest things that I've had to do in recovery, was moving from where your roots are at in it. Because in my mind, I'm like, I'm just going to get plugged in like a newcomer. Everything's going to be just fine. Well, life gets a life, and you move to a new area. You know, your kiddo's a teenager. She's going through teenager type stuff in a new school. Your wife's going through new job stuff in a big city we know nothing about, no one around. You take on a new job gets jobbing. Before you know it, you're like, whoa. Yeah, it wasn't like in the beginning. In the beginning, when I first started off, 7 years ago, I went to a noon meeting every day, man, as if my butt was going to fall off and I was going to die if I didn't go to that meeting. And all those things helped save my life, but life doesn't look like that right now, but I don't know where I was going with that because there's a lot of meat to chew on these bones. But yeah, man, that was super difficult. But what I really enjoy about this, not only the connection, I love seeking the seekers today. I talked to John about this months ago. We were watching football or something together, and I said, man, I said, truth be told, I could just sit around with other people and talk about God all day long.
That's all I do.
Right. That's all. I mean, in so many different areas, it'd be like, oh, hey, man, look at that. Think about this scripture compared to this, what it says in the big book, and what do you think about this, and what's your, and I mean, I was asking him wild questions, Paul. I was like, hey, man, have you ever sat in meditation and then you feel like you can just feel the dirt on your face from like Jerusalem, and you can
Nice.
smell the leather from like a disciple's sandals. I mean, I'm getting out there, and he's like, but I'm serious, man, and I'm like, I'm getting moved to tears because, like you said about the nuggets, like where'd that come from? I'm sitting there like, where'd this come from?
Yeah.
Because I believed in something. I didn't come up in a super religious family in the beginning. A lot of my mother's faith now is very strong, and same with my stepdad's and a lot of other people. A lot of people prayed for me, man, and I used to mock their faith. Mock them. Make fun of them, scoff at them, say things to harm them. And the crazy thing is, man, wouldn't you know, they still prayed for me anyway, loved me anyway, right?
Yeah.
He has impeccable timing, gentlemen, and I know this with full authority that he will create certain things in your life, strongholds that he's only the one capable of taking down, but he will put up things to divert you in certain areas. Pain. We don't know why, right? But like pain, things we've been through, it's not for being punished. Right? So yeah, man, sandals, dirt. It was funny. Got out there, but that's the cool thing though, man. And I can talk about these things with you guys today because of this journey and because of building relationships with other men and gaining that trust instead of holding back, being vulnerable. I can talk about these things and not cringe. When I first came into the rooms, by gosh, if I said God inside of me, man, like my butt would clamp up. Yeah. Thank goodness there were some people in the meeting, man. This girl, Haley J., God bless her. She's not with us anymore, but man, she'd always talk about God. And she was unapologetic about it. And those kind of instances sprinkled in, because if you ever go to newcomers meetings, most of the time you hear, well, I got a problem with God. And I mean, you just always hear the,
Sure.
The certain kind of.
Oh, that is.
Certain kind of narrative. And that's cool. Whatever, man. Everybody's on their journey. But thank goodness that there was some sprinkled in stuff that I was like, dang, man, this girl's got some guts. That's awesome. I got to talk to her about this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man, she played a significant role in my life, man. God sends people to you exactly when you need them, man. You might not even know, right?
Yeah. Good stuff. All right, we are we're almost at an hour and a half. We're almost at an hour and a half. This has been
so
fun.
Another hour to go, right?
Yeah.
You got another 2 in you, big guy.
Yeah.
Is there anything that y'all want to finish us off with? Either one of y'all stands out that you feel like you need to share before we end this?
I don't know about Jeremy, but and I don't want to take over the podcast, but can we end with a little hope? We all don't know who's listening to this, man, and if you felt like we felt before, and if you've listened to the whole time that we've talked, if you dig any of this, and if you can relate to any of it, you are wanted, welcomed, and needed in Alcoholics Anonymous. I love that saying because you are.
Yeah.
And I know from my own experience what has worked for me. And if you'd like to try something new, if you'd like to know about how that way out is, just go to a meeting. Shoot.
Yeah.
You might find somebody there you connect with, man. Get some good stuff on you.
Yeah. And I'll say this. If you feel like this is inaccessible, like you're not up to it, like it's the scariest thing in the world, go up and talk to whoever it is in that room that scares you. The one that makes you go, oh man, I don't know. I don't think he'll even want to talk to me, or she, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Go up and just say, hey, because what amazes me is like, these people actually talk to me You know what I mean? Like, Paul, you asked me to be on this thing, and I was like, really, me? That feeling keeps popping, like, over and over again. Like, you want... Because, like, I'm not supposed to be here, bro. Mm-hmm. I didn't think I'd live this long. Mm-hmm. So for anybody who's out there that feels like that, like, I can't possibly be equal to this, you don't have to be. That's what God's for, even if he scares you.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well said, man.
Yeah.
Gosh.
It's one of the, like I was sharing earlier, you know, there's those times where you're just like, you're drawn. It's like, oh, okay. I'm supposed to be talking to this guy. I'm supposed to, you know, whether it's a new guy in a meeting or an old guy in a meeting or wherever, or just someone, you know, something told me to get the two of y'all on this. Something told me, you know what I mean? It's just, so here we are, you know, and I tend to, hopefully I can pay attention to those pulls, those nudges. Yeah. And I had a lady about 3 months ago send me an email on the podcast and say, just a little spiritual nudge, get this guy on the podcast, and sent me a phone number. I contacted the guy. We were scheduled in like 3 or 4 weeks. Yeah, so
that's what's up.
Yeah. And it seems to be working. So
right.
How cool is that, man?
Yeah, this is cool. Yeah.
Not trying to control it, just open waves.
Yeah, I called the guy, talked to him. I was interested. I was like, wow, okay, this is cool. You know, if you have a spiritual nudge, you know, send me an email, talk to us, post on a comment on this podcast. Let's see what happens with it. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Thank you, Jeremy.
Yeah,
you guys are awesome.
Hello, and welcome back to Three Legacies Recovery Recording Podcast, where we explore the ongoing journey of recovery and the spiritual growth that comes with it. If you enjoy our program, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to share with a friend. Please note that the views expressed on this podcast are solely our individual views and do not represent any official stance of any 12-step program. We are not affiliated with any specific recovery organization, and this content should not be considered professional advice for alcoholism or addiction.
Hey everyone, it's Paul from Three Legacies Recovery Recording Podcast with a quick note before we get started with this episode. It's hard to believe we've been doing this for an entire year now. It's been such an amazing experience getting to know everybody. We already have the majority of 2026 booked up, and we have a lot of great guests scheduled. We don't make any money off YouTube or any of the other platforms. This podcast is completely self-supporting, and we've spent a lot of money, time, and energy into it, simply just because we love doing it. We're not trying to make a profit, but we are trying to cover our upcoming expenses if that's at all possible. If you'd like to be a part of that, you can make a contribution at our Venmo, which is Recovery Recordings 615. We'd like to keep this commercial free. Thank you.